preaching about the call this morning, the call. And that's a symbolic and powerful image in the life of faith, the call. We know that Jesus called a group of people to follow him in his early ministry, and we hear one of those stories today. He called the disciples. We speak about a call when people decide to go into the ministry. Say they have a call to preach. We speak about a call now among our laity and among our leaders in the church. A call into the music ministry, a call to be a part of the education ministry, a call to be a part of the counseling and service ministry through the Stevens ministry. So many ways we talk about a call in our life. God speaks to us and we respond. It's a wonderful story today in the book of John. Jesus calls Nathanael and Philip. He calls Philip first. Philip is a Greek name. So Philip was a Hellenized Jew. That means he had learned Greek. He spoke Greek. He was sophisticated. He spoke more than just the Hebrew language. He was acquainted with philosophy. And so he was a sophisticated young man. Jesus calls him, and then he goes back to his hometown, Bethsaida. We use that word, we say it differently in English, Bethesda. Lots of Bethesda Methodist churches around, Bethesda, Maryland, where the hospital is. He goes to Bethsaida, and he finds his friend Nathanael. Nathanael is a pious man. And he tells his buddy, we found the one that we've been looking for. We found the one that Moses and the prophets preached about. He's finally here. His name is Jesus. His daddy's name was Joseph, and he's from the town of Nazareth. And then we get that wonderful little humorous element of the story. Nathanael says, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" He's looking down his nose. Kind of like when I grew up, can anything good come out of Scotland County? You know, same kind of thing. And when we were in Laurinburg, we'd say, can anything come out of Wagram? You know, there's always somewhere one step lower down the block. Can anything good come out of Nazareth? That's just a little hick town in the mountains. Oh, yes, come and see. So Nathanael comes with Philip, and they see Jesus, and Jesus pays him a compliment. As he walks up to him, he says, "Behold, an Israelite in which there is no guile." He is an honest man. He is a man of integrity. And Nathanael says, "Well, how do you know anything about me?" And Jesus says, "I saw you under the fig tree when Philip was talking to you." This is a sight beyond sight. This is a proleptic vision, as we say in theological language. He saw something and he wasn't there. This is a miracle. And so Nathanael, at that point, falls to his knees and says, "Oh, yeah, very truly, I do believe that you are the Son of God." It's a miracle. He experiences a miracle when he's called. And then one more, I think, humorous note to end the passage. And Jesus says to Nathanael, "Oh, you think this is a big deal? This is nothing compared to what you'll see if you follow me. Because you will see greater things. You'll see heaven opened up and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man." Uses that mysterious image, the Son of Man. What a story. What a call. Is Jesus still calling today? Well, is he? Yeah, thank you. Is he? Yes, amen. Jesus is still calling today. Still calling people into service, into ministry, into relationships, into healing connections with one another. Jesus is still calling today. If we take the example of these early calls, Jesus walks up to a few fishermen on the beach and says, "Drop your nets and follow me." Calls Philip and says, "Come with me." Philip tells Nathanael, "Come with me." If we follow that model, we'll see that the call usually interrupts us in our normal life, doesn't it? We're kind of going along, doing our regular thing, taking care of our children, going to school, going to work, and then something intervenes. Something stops us in our tracks. Something makes us look again. And we begin to feel an inner compulsion, as the old evangelicals used to say. Our heart begins to lead us in a certain way. And we begin to wonder if God has something special in mind for us to do in this world. And it interrupts our ordinary ways of doing things. Nathanael, when he is speaking to Philip, Philip says, "This is the one we have been looking for." If you are going to hear a call in your life, you need to be looking for God and how God is speaking to you. You need to be praying about it. God, how can you use me? How can you make me special? How can you allow me to be a part of your kingdom? And if you're answering that question, God will call. Sooner or later, God will speak. Maybe not exactly on our timetable, but on God's timetable. Sometimes when we hear a call, a miracle happens immediately. That's what happened in this story. Nathanael shows up and says, "How do you know anything about me?" And Jesus says, "Oh, I saw you sitting under the fig tree talking to Philip." That was a miracle. They didn't have, iPhones with immediate pictures that you could send to somebody else. He didn't say, "No, they took a picture with the iPhone and flashed it over to me." This was spiritual. Sometimes when God calls you to do something, a miracle shows up. It confirms the call. I never forget, it was about almost 20 years ago now. I was serving Carrboro United Methodist Church, and I got a phone call from a buddy of mine who was a Lutheran pastor, and he said, "We have a number of Burmese refugees. They fought against the government of Burma. They lost. They were in the refugee camps. They've been living there in squalor for years. The State Department has just turned on the green light. If they could prove that they were fighting against the government of Burma in 1998, they'll let them go if somebody will sponsor them." That was just the rule. So would your church adopt a Burmese family? And I said, "Well, let me pray about that." And I went home and talked to Sue about it. And I said, "Man, I don't know anybody that speaks or writes Burmese. How are we going to communicate with these people?" And the next Sunday, had a regular church service, and there was this little lady who was visiting there. And as we were going out the door and shaking hands with people, I said, "Well, I don't mean to be forward or anything, but this is your first time visiting here, and you look to be of some Asian descent. Would you mind telling me what your background is?" And she says, "Oh, yes, I'm Burmese." And I said, "Do you read and speak Burmese?" "Oh, yes, as well as English." I said, "If we sponsored a family here, would you be the translator for them?" "I'd be happy to." "Well, do you think God was calling me to do that?" "Better get in line." And so he sponsored 3 brothers. One of them was married. The married one had a child, so 5 came. They had nothing but a paper bag apiece of their clothes. That's what they came to this country with.